And we're live. Hello, heathens. How y'all doing? Today I have Jeff Holiday here with me, and
Hello.
we're going to be we're going to be discussing tactics of pseudoscience because I feel, as long as with a lot of other people, that they use a lot of similar arguments, and they use a lot of similar tactics in order to push their pseudoscience. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to have Jeff on so that we can kind of brainstorm about this particular topic. Jeff, do you want to introduce yourself and let everybody know where they can get you? Jeff's channel link is in the description, so definitely go there and subscribe if you haven't already.
Hi, I'm Jeff. You can just find me anywhere. I'm just searching for Jeff Holiday. And yeah, I've been fighting weird and crazy pseudoscience for, oh God, I don't even know, years. Like when I finally woke up out of the weird hippy dippy cult of ignorance kind of thing that goes on in my town,
Yeah.
it really was like my getting wokeness, and it happened in college too, so that helped quite a bit. But yeah, so that's what I do with my channel now: debunk bad pseudoscience, and I'm happy to be focused on that. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and it's really gotten you like a lot of attention. You were recently, or maybe not too recently, but I mean, you were on the Dr. Phil show confronting
Mhm.
Jilly, and I have to say, any conversation around that woman is hilarious.
No, it's wonderful. It's perfect. Like one of the big problems, and I'm sure we're gonna get into this a lot too, is when you're dealing with pseudoscience peddlers and people who are trying to take advantage of other people, they have a tendency to be at least somewhat sly, and it's rare to find somebody who produces so much amazing content. I mean, amazing in a bad way, amazing bad content, and is so incredibly easy to be able to point at. And like most people who will fall for like healing crystals will look at Jillian and be like, no, actually, no. And it's wonderful. So I think she's a blessing, despite the fact she's probably going to get people killed.
Yeah, I hate that is a real potential for it because of what if for those of you that don't know, Jilly is this woman who's concocted this whole Jilly Juice thing, which is basically a whole bunch of salt, water, and cabbage, and she suggests you follow that and a bunch of dietary restrictions in order to cure everything from a missing limb to cancer, just everything. What? Oh yeah, and homosexuality. Apparently, if you shove it up your ass, you can not want that anymore.
It can cure the gay.
But it does make you shit yourself on while you're live streaming to your entire audience.
Yeah, that was wonderful. So, Miles just put out his video on Jilly Juice
Yeah.
today, and he made a batch of the stuff, and the whole time I'm like, there's no way he's gonna, no way. He sipped it. But then he was like, I'm definitely not gonna drink any more of this because I don't want to poop on camera. He knows.
He knows.
He knows. That's
yeah,
that's
I believe Miles also tried like it was some kind of like chemical mixture that was basically near bleach or something like that. And
mm-hmm.
like he tried to drink it and he just couldn't do it like at all. Like it was horrible. I think he actually had to like spit it out.
Yeah, miracle mineral supplement, or sometimes it's also referred as miracle mineral something. I can't remember which one it is, but it's basically chlorine dioxide, which I mean, like in really small amounts is for the most part harmless. It's fine, but it is an industrial bleaching agent. It's not the same chemical composition as like household bleach, but it's a bleaching agent, and it's fucking bad for you. And Miles, he's a pro, man. He actually drank some of that shit, and ooh. The one he
Yeah.
did not do, and I don't blame him for it. He never tried the Bloodroot stuff, which is good
Well,
because
what is that?
Bloodroot is an escharotic. It's basically you put this shit on your skin and it burns a hole in you. Yeah, it burns a hole in you. And that's all it does. And it makes these giant craters, and it fills the crater in with this eschar, a black mass of decayed bits of tissue, of bodied tissue, and all the shit that was on the with the bloodroot. And then it falls out, and eventually your body will pop back out this crater. But you'll see people who are doing this shit, and they got, like that big of holes in their body that they burn. A few people have lost their noses because they burned all the way in and it dissolved all the cartilage. Like, oh,
What?
yeah, yeah, it's wild.
No, no, it's insane, is what that is. It's not just
Mhm.
wild. Like wild is a Friday night. That is just fucking crazy.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, and that's the thing though is, people who push this, who push MMS, who push, Jilly Juice, like we've been saying for a while, they all use such similar tactics to each other over and over again that it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I was just gonna say there's a couple of super chats already. Jables Boogly says, "Oh hey, I didn't expect to see Jeff here."
eh,
And then Slick the Geek, British Jeff Holiday just released a video on Jilly Juice.
Miles Power is a way better video maker than I am. His editing is better, his camera work is better. He's better than me in every way. You could call me the low rent American version of Miles Power, and I'd be okay with that. So,
um well, so yeah, we're here to talk about the common tactics, like Jeff talked about it just a second ago. And the first one that I wanted to bring up was using a kernel of truth and extrapolating it out into ridiculous unsupported ways.
okay.
And I feel like all pseudoscience does that, because they'll take like a small little kernel of something, and then they'll blow it out of proportion,
Hmm.
and they will push it as like a factual thing. And I'm wondering what are your thoughts on that?
Like which when you start to talk about it, like what's the first one that comes to mind?
Well, for me, I guess it'd have to be like flat Earth.
Mm.
And like one of the things that they say is like, oh, like if the Earth is flat, then why does the sun appear to move in the sky or whatnot, and appear to move across the sky, or why can we see farther on some days or something like that, or like why can we
Mm.
see Chicago, the Chicago skyline from Michigan.
Mhm.
And the kernel of truth that they take is the fact that like you can see these things happening, like it appears to you like the sun moves in the sky or whatnot, but we know that that's not actually what's happening. So they take like a kernel of truth, being that, oh, I see these things happening, and yes, those are things that are truthfully happening from your perspective. But if you actually look into the explanation of it, then you can understand what is actually happening.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I mean, you run into people in groups and businesses that'll do that a lot. They'll take something at least somewhat minor, and they'll exacerbate it to the point where they make it blow up. Like a good example is there's a whole industry, thankfully very loosely grouped there. It's not like a huge one, but there's an industry inside like the supplement sphere where they sell fear about nuclear radiation. They sell fear about and it extends not just in like nuclear radiation, but they'll be like, you need to protect yourself against electromagnetic radiation, or against Wi-Fi signals and that kind of thing. And they take like very small nuggets of truth, and they rely on people being ignorant, or being just not having the time. I don't want to say lazy, because life is complicated, life is busy. They're too busy to really look into it for themselves, so that's what they use as the basis for their sell. And that's what I think is really interesting. Like, because radiation, obviously certain types of radiation, any radiation really at a high enough concentration, probably bad for you. probably really damn bad for you. But, you'll have people like, we made specialty products to protect you versus electromagnetic magnetic radiation from these sources around you. Well, I'm sorry, but the largest source of electromagnetic radiation that we experience, and we experience it like we are in it right now. It's called the fucking planet. The planet has a giant electromagnetic field around it. All right, like we're in it. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Well, now, another thing is, we were talking about David Avocado Wolf before we actually went live,
Oh yeah.
and one of the things that we talked about was his adherence to this whole salt idea. How that is that you need to drink so much like salt water a day or whatnot, that actually helps you stick to the earth and all this other stuff. And I feel like the nugget of truth he uses there is the whole fact that we do need salt in our diet. Like salt
Sure.
is very important for regulating the different pressures in our blood system,
Mhm.
our bloodstream, and that it's essential for that. So if we don't get enough salt in our diet, then that can have adverse effects. If we have too much salt, that also has adverse effects. But
Absolutely.
he takes that nugget of truth of being that, oh, you need salt in your diet, and he blows it so far out of proportion that it leads you down this path where you're saying, oh yeah, salt really does help my ass stick to the earth.
And what the thing that always gets me, so before I had to take a break for family issues from college, I was really really heavily invested into learning about biological neuroscience and understanding how the brain works on a physical level. Psychology wasn't really something that I was super into, but the actual physical structures of the brain, I was fascinated by it. And every time salt comes up, because salt for some reason is pervasive in pseudoscience, I keep coming back to the way we think, like the way we actually think, the physical biomechanism of how we think relies on a sodium potassium pump that charges an electrical signal down our neurons until it fires out. Like the actual physical way we think involves like chemical pumps, and people are like, salt is this amazing thing, blah, and they just it's so reductive. It's reductive from something that's absolutely incredible. And if you ask me, when you really understand how the whole thing works, it's like a piece of art. It really is. How our brains work is a piece of art.
Oh
And so
yeah.
you dumb that down to layman's terms, and that's fine because people are busy. But then you dumb it down to such an insane degree that now you can make these broad claims. Some people tell you you have to cut the salt. Some people say you have to take so much salt it's physically harming you. It's bizarre. And then Wolf, Mr. Avocado, is like, Take the salt or your ass is gonna float off just into space." Like, has it ever happened? Has anybody I guess I wouldn't be able to ask them because then they would have floated off into space. We never see them again. But
Well, okay, so to talk about another nugget of truth that these people use, it's concerning vaccines. And I see a lot of memes on the internet and everything like that where they talk about, oh, this thing and this thing and that thing are in it. And, you wouldn't pump your baby full of mercury, would you?
yeah.
And so, like, they take this idea, like, these are harmful chemicals and elements and whatnot, like in large doses or whatever, but like when they're used appropriately, they're not harmful. And
Mhm.
the way that they're used, like in vaccines or whatnot, I mean, they're not harmful. And I'm fairly certain that they probably throw in some shit in there that isn't actually used in vaccines. Because I mean, that's another common thing they do is they just make shit up. It
Oh
gets to the
yeah.
point where they just start adding shit in, and it's not even true what they're saying, but it sounds scary, and they use that as a scare tactic. And have you done a lot of like content or videos or research into like the anti-vaxxer stuff?
A lot, and I'm still I'm working on countering Vaxxed, the documentary. I think 3 episodes in so far, and this series is probably gonna run over 10 because there's just so much to it. There's so much to it. It's utterly fascinating, and Every time I think I've hit enough to do a video, I realize I'm staring into another abyss. I have a lot more research to do. It's crazy. But yeah, like you hit on it really interestingly, because like thimerosal was the big spooky man, the big boogeyman for vaccines. And this is it's a preservative that we used in vaccines since the 30s, since the 1930s. Never has there actually been any proof, no actual scientific literature that shows that thimerosal is inherently dangerous. And it is a mercury compound, but it's not the same as elemental mercury. It's chemically very, very different. And it's fine, it's safe. But because they made such a stink about this, they took thimerosal out of all vaccines except I think they're the flu vaccine, and it's only certain flu vaccines from certain manufacturers even have thimerosal in them. So what happened is they're like, it's the thimerosal, it's the mercury, it's making your kids autistic or whatever, giving you chronic illnesses. And they take that out and they're like, okay, well actually then it's now aluminum. Like, okay, well, how is it now magically aluminum? Well, people are still autistic. Okay, so it couldn't be just because it's not the vaccines. It's a different part of the vaccine. Got it. Okay, fine. Even though kids who aren't vaccinated can get autism too, but whatever. Anyway, that's not important. So, and then they bring out, and because we really do understand aluminum toxicity really, really well, and it's like you said, the dose makes the poison perfectly safe. Again, so they then like have that shut down. Some people still believe it. Some people still believe the thimerosal one. But now the big current one is aborted fetal tissue. There's unborn babies in the vaccines, right? And these are programmed by the death cult pharmaceutical industry to be a ticking time bomb. And so when you're in your 40s or your 50s, it explodes in cancer, super cancer. Vaccine-induced ticking time bomb, super cancer. This is real shit that people think. And what's crazy about it is it's, again, something that's amazing that people don't understand. What it is there were 2 cell cultures taken from fetuses decades ago that they've replicated in labs on an industrial scale because it's a very valuable resource for the mechanism that they want it to do in a vaccine. It's actually, it's amazing. It's an incredible piece of technology. But there's no babies in vaccine. No.
Well, yeah, and a lot of times they will misrepresent like the vaccine like the fragments or whatnot of the actual like virus or disease. Like sometimes vaccines will include those so that your body can build antibodies against them, and like they will push it as, oh, they're pumping you full of the flu vaccine, or not flu vaccine, but the actual flu virus.
Right.
And so you're going to get the flu anyways, when in reality it's just, oh, there's a chance that you could develop flu-like symptoms and all this other stuff, because I mean they are putting a fragment or a very weakened version of whatever virus like into you, but it's just so that you can build the immunity.
An attenuated virus. Yeah.
Yeah. We have one super chat, another super chat. Breadmaster PBJ tried telling an anti-vaxxer that there's formaldehyde in their blood and see how their heads explode.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
I have to say that I love the trolling memes that people put together, especially like the dihydrogen monoxide. It's like dihydrogen monoxide has a pH level above 7. Why would you want to put this in your baby's, belly or something like that?
Yeah. It's commonly found in infant formula. Dun, dun, dun. Shit. Wow. There's fucking water in my infant's formula. Damn it. Water never helped nobody. What the fuck is?
Let's see. The next common tactic that I actually thought about prior to this was the whole unfalsifiable narrative. And I think that we've kind of already touched on this a little bit already, but it seems like a lot of pseudoscience proponents create an unfalsifiable narrative that whenever you try to counter them with actual information, it just, like, they can't be wrong. And so you can literally never change their mind.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I really do mean it legitimately when I say that pseudoscience is a cult, because it is. It's a cult. There's a lot of they organize and they build these dogmatic principles on how they're supposed to work, and some of the most successful pseudoscience tropes and belief systems all very closely relate to a religion. Some of them on a level that is staggering. Jilly Juice, I've gone off about how they actually have their own form of religious reverie and euphoria because of endorphins popping out because they're shitting their brains out. But the I mean, it is like you feel amazing. You're like, wow, it must be working. I feel awesome, which is a lot like group hypnosis of participating in a ritual, like taking communion. You can instill a real physiological feeling. Your mind can construct this actual physiological feeling of elation from a type of participatory ritualistic group kind of I don't want to say it's actually hypnosis, but you know what I mean. You're participating and you feel it. You feel the spirit of God. Whereas some of these, like with the shitting your brains out in endorphins, like you feel it because it's a real psychoactive effect. But the unfalsifiable part of it, though, is what's fascinating because they do construct these perfect traps. I was just talking to an anti-vaxxer like the past couple of days, and his his belief is a wonderful disastrous circle of constantly coming back upon itself. If I say that there is ultimately a need that we have to vaccinate to protect people who can't be vaccinated, then he starts to put into um, that the vaccines are actually causing the illnesses, and we'd have less illnesses if we didn't vaccinate. Well, what's your proof? Well, my proof is that we have more instances of these illnesses since we've been vaccinating. I'm like, well, yeah, because people live longer and they have more chance to actually catch these. And it's little tricks, and they always find a way to fall back on it. And the most staunch of them will inevitably they'll react almost violently when you corner them, and you do find that one little bit of logical argument that they can't really fight against, and it
Hmm.
ultimately ends up, and this is, I'd say 9 times out of 10 ultimately ends up with this. Well, science is just bought and paid for because of blah, so I reject all your evidence.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've encountered that so many times. Like for instance, the first thing that comes to mind is flat earthers with the NASA. Like NASA is a lie. It's like every picture they take is CGI generated. Or it's kind of repeating a word there. It's all CGI, all this other stuff. So they weave that sort of distrust in whatever sources you already have, and there's like no way to respond to that other than to say no, that's wrong.
Yeah. But you can't prove them wrong, because in order to do that, you'd have to engage upon this ridiculous notion that they can't prove, but you can't disprove. Yeah, you know what my favorite one with the flat earthers is where when you bring up like travel time in airplanes and that sort of thing, or going around the world, they're like, well, they pump gas in and they put you to sleep. Like, what? What? They do what? What they do what now? Excuse me. Okay.
Well,
But
yeah. With the every argument that they have, usually leaves me with like my jaw open, like wow, I can't believe that they went there, and the lengths that they'll go to in order to make things fit into their worldview, really astounds me.
yeah.
Have you seen this weird cult called I find it online by typing in Bracco's gaze.
Brazzo, yes, the healing gaze of Brazzo. Yes, I have. Yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah.
Wonderful. My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, so this guy, it's just like all he does is stand there and look at the camera, and I guess for hours, maybe, or maybe they just take a few seconds and then they loop it or something. I'm not sure, but this creates an unfalsifiable narrative because you just got to look at them, and then it's like, oh, you feel yourself getting better, or you feel like the anxiety lift off. It's like, there's hardly a way that you can actually say like, oh, well, no, that's not actually happening. I mean, we know
Right.
that that's not actually happening because I mean, just a pure gaze by somebody isn't going to cure anything, but
No.
these people believe it because they themselves can't, like, I guess, falsify it.
Yeah, I started looking into this dude too. I was supposed to do a video about him with Hemlock Moonwolf, right?
Mm.
And I still probably will at some point. It's just there's not a whole lot of denseness to Brazzo, except he was the pupil of a rather notorious, I want to say, a rather notorious pseudoscience peddler, like a spiritualist kind of dude, right? And
Mhm.
I found it actually rather amusing to learn that there's like a long-standing history between him and this guy and like how it all works. It's I don't know, like you start digging into this stuff and it just gets deeper and deeper, and the next thing you know, you're in awe by how
Well,
crazy this could be.
okay, so here's an idea. What you need to do is you just need to make a video where it's just you staring into the camera, and then you overlay your voice talking about
Mm, that's right. That's right. Uh,
it.
yeah, no, his healing gaze, that one, it's such a gem, man. It really is. Uh, it's too often that you end up running into these pseudoscientists and like some of the shit that they pull. But it's almost a relief when sometimes you find one that's just so ridiculous and silly. You're like, okay, this isn't gonna make me kill myself today. This is actually kind of nice. It's kind of I'm into that. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird stuff, man. It's really weird stuff.
Oh, yeah, you got some Broncos case shit going on behind you now.
Do I? Is that what's happening right now? Is that
Oh shit.
oh, hey, it's Brazzo.
Oh, he's eye fucking me right now. I'm telling you.
The healing gaze of Brazzo. It's so good, man. It's so good.
uh, so I'm wondering, are there any other pseudoscience like topics that you can think of that has like that unfalsifiable narrative to it? Um,
That one, yeah, there's quite a bit. Like the Bloodroot stuff has an unfalsifiable narrative to it for one really specific reason. Like the main selling point on Bloodroot is that it has a purging element. And like basically what they're trying to sell is if you see a blemish of any kind, that is probably cancer and you need to get rid of it. And it's probably also tendrils of cancer going through your body. So you need to make sure you address all of it. So sometimes they even eat this shit, which thankfully doesn't burn a hole in your body. Your stomach acid will pretty much deactivate it. But so their belief is like, oh, I have a mole, that's cancer. And so I'm just gonna burn it, and then the bloodroot stuff, it used to actually be used by doctors for doing things like removing scar tissue and removing certain blemishes, which we don't do it anymore because we have much better techniques. Um, so basically, they do that, and if your mole is gone, then it's an unfalsifiable but seemingly evidence of what you were claiming. But there's no way to really do that unless people go and get tested for skin cancer. And if it's not, then they also have the narrative of like, well, they just want to sell you like medicines or something, or they're trying to keep you sick and unaware. That's a
yeah,
big that's dude, that's a big one. That's a big one. The belief that they they want you to be sick. That's a big one.
Yeah, actually, that's next on my list to bring up. Actually,
Yes.
yeah. So next on my list was this creation of an enemy or like this opposition that has a lot of control or wants to do the person harm, and
Mhm.
so they craft this enemy that either doesn't exist or isn't really an enemy but does exist. And so they craft this whole idea that of this they or the Illuminati or the lizard people or whoever,
Mhm.
they are controlling things and they are doing all of these things like pulling the strings and whatnot. And so there's no way to like disprove what these people are saying or what or disprove this authority or whatnot because it just simply doesn't exist.
Because it's so powerful. And this is what I think is so great about that. Uh, I have a really weird sense of what's great and what's just fucking terrible. So, I mean, that's just me. But because uh, it's the job. You have to like find weird pleasures with it. But that is something that I find pretty fascinating. And it's actually kind of a weird logical inconsistency. Like, okay, here's the deal. They want you to be sick. Why? So they can maybe they want to control you. Maybe they want to depopulate the planet. That's a big one. Maybe they want to like sell you pills, powders, and supplements. Blah blah blah. Whatever for whatever reason, and they could be like the government, reptilians, the Jews. The one that I discovered last night, the transgender prostitute satanic cabal. Maybe, right? So 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 uh but the weird inconsistency with this is like, okay, so if this group, they, we'll just call them they, is so powerful that they're enacting this incredible oppression machine or disinformation scene or whatever. How does this person then know to combat it? How are they so woke? How are they red pilled or whatever? Like, how did they manage to beat the conditioning? Now, for them, and this is an intoxicating thing. It's part of the group hypnosis of feeling like you understand something that's hidden. But that's what's so strange about people who fall into this is because it makes more sense to them that this weirdo looking dude, which I shouldn't say I'm wearing a monkey hat, but this weirdo fucking guy uh somehow broke the conditioning of the matrix, and now he has freed me from the chains too. That is more likely than that person is insane. I
Yeah.
don't get it. I still don't get it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't get it either. That's a common thing among the flat Earth crowd as well.
Yep.
Is they try to play off as being like illuminated or woke, I guess, but that everybody else is brainwashed and they are the only ones that know the truth. And so it kind of provides this feeling of being special, like you have this special knowledge and you can get the upper hand on all those smart asses back in high school. Sure, you failed science 12 times, but damn it, you know the earth is flat.
Do you know those memes out there, and like it looks like a kid's book, and everybody I don't like is literally Hitler, or everybody I don't
Yeah,
like is an
yeah.
SJ or something like that. I want somebody to make me one that says everyone I don't like is a shill.
And
Maybe.
have them running around in like NASA shirts and everything.
Yeah. Alternatively, also could do everyone I don't like is Illuminati, you know?
Yeah.
And probably like the person sliding down the slide could be like Beyonce or maybe Jay-Z. It'd
Yeah,
be
and they're sliding into a satanic ritual.
yeah, yeah, with like a pentagram and all the kids got the candles up and this is a great idea.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it's weird. Like,
Let's see. We got a couple super chats real quick.
sure.
Breadmaster PBJ says that Brazo's gaze gives me cancer or gave me cancer. He did that to me too. I feel violated. Tiberius Kirk, sweet. You and Jeff on a stream. This is a great night.
Hell
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, So, uh, there's those three things that I kind of listed and went over. And I'm kind of curious, is there any other kind of commonalities that you've really found, like with the pseudoscience crowd? I know Goddess Spaghetti asked if you have any experience with homeopathy and if you've done anything about that. And
Oh yeah.
so, I mean, we could start there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Homeopathy, that's actually, and I'm glad that she mentioned that, because homeopathy is another unfalsifiable, you know. It believe the whole basis for homeopathy depends on your belief that water has a memory. Like there's two requirements. Like cures like, and water has a memory. So
Mhm.
if you're trying to cure a fever, you take something that would otherwise give you a fever, and then you boil it down over and over and over and over again until literally there's nothing of it left, just water that you keep adding. But the water contains the memory of the thing, and then it's gonna heal you. Now you can prove that it's false on a chemical level because you can test the water and you can see what's actually in it. And you can say, well, there's nothing in the water. So how would that help anything? But for them, that doesn't matter because for them, this is a spiritual aspect to their pseudoscience. It's a matter of faith, a matter of science that science can't detect. Um, and that's very common, and it's strange too because it's completely legal to sell people cures, homeopathic cures. It's 100% legal in the United States, at least. um
Yeah, I think that you are just restricted on how you actually try to sell it. Like, you can't say that it definitely cures cancer, but you can say things that insinuate that or something.
you can say that it has anti-cancer properties. You could say you can insinuate that it does a lot of things, and then as long as on the box it says supplement facts, not drug facts, and it says is not verified by the FDA, then you can sell fucking damn near anything in supplement
Mhm.
form. And that's all because of like a very strange historical deregulation that happened. I think it was like 1994 that happened. Um, but as far as like the other tactics, this is my favorite. This one is my absolute favorite. Um, false expertise. That's my
Mhm.
favorite. That's my favorite because I have I have a problem with chiropractors. I don't like chiropractors. I don't. There are great chiropractors out there, and all they do is they're like, yeah, I'll pop your back and I'll make your back feel good because your back's all wound up and shit, and it's basically what's it called? Acupressure. It's like
Oh, okay.
acupressure, massage therapy kind of stuff, basically.
Yeah.
It's along the same lines, and that's fine. I got no problem with that. But chiropractic as a medicinal practice started out by believing that there were energy conduits along your spine that translated all throughout your body. Same with reflexology, but it all went to your feet. It's all bullshit. But you can go and spend like $400, take a 6-week online course, and be able to call yourself a doctor of chiropractic medicine. So these fucking companies, they'll go out there and be like, well, we have our product endorsed by this doctor. A doctor has endorsed our product and says it's a fantastic product with a lot of healing properties. And you go and you look at the fucking doctor, he's a chiropractor all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Have you seen them do the chiropractic shit like on babies?
Oh, yeah. That's a hard one to watch. It's a really
Yeah.
hard one to watch.
Yeah. I can't stand to see like that happen to like small children. I mean, you flick your wrist the wrong way and you're like you turn them into a paraplegic,
Yeah.
like for the entirety of their lives.
I'll be as charitable as possible, and I'll mention that horrific accidents with chiropractic adjustments are very rare, very very rare. I'll be charitable, and I'll put that out there that it's extremely rare that it ever happens. Um, but at the same time, the notion that you're gonna go and take a newborn or even just a child, any child, it doesn't matter, any kid, and get them adjusted by a chiropractor is insanity. It is perfect fucking insanity because you are putting them into this risk for something that is demonstrably proven not to actually help. It doesn't do what you think it's gonna do. And so, yeah, I have a I have a very strong emotional reaction to that, especially those videos of babies getting their necks popped, like,
Yeah.
2 weeks out of the fucking womb. So
Well, right, and like another big deal with like small children and babies and whatnot is that their spines are still forming, they're still growing and everything, and like
yep.
fucking around with that can be detrimental. Um, Now you mentioned reflexology, which I have to admit I've been trying this entire time to think about what that was called,
Yeah.
because I know what it is, but there may be some people out there that don't understand what it is. Could you explain that?
Yeah, reflexology, it was if I'm not mistaken, I don't quote me on it because like, I am a bit of a historian on pseudoscience, but I also have a really terrible recall sometimes. Now, but I think around the same time that chiropractic medicinal theory was being developed, around the same time they also developed some other woo peddlers believed that energy points basically coalesce into the feet. Certain points on the bottom of your feet could be pushed, pressed, or stimulated, and it would trigger a flow of energy to that part. So say you're having some gut pain, well, there's a point on your foot and translates to your gut, and if you stimulate that spot, it'll trigger your energy to flow into your gut and it will heal that. And there are people who specialize in this. In fact, actually, in one of the malls here in town, there's a Chinese boutique, a Chinese medicine boutique. Reflexology, by the way, is not Chinese, but they have a giant poster right on the front window of a foot, and they offer reflexology services. I go, honey, let's go down to the mall. I want to get some traditional Chinese reflexology. Maybe to help with my diabetes or something, like, yeah.
Hey, I've got diabetes, so I might as well try it out, right?
There you go. Hey, fuck it, whatever.
Yeah. Well, what I like about the whole reflexology thing, and I use like as in it's the most ridiculous part of it.
Mm,
They basically will take like I guess maybe a machine that just vibrates like
yeah.
fast, and they will just pretty much massage one particular portion of your foot. It basically comes down to you go in there and they tickle you a little bit and they say you're cured, and like people believe that that actually works, and
They do.
it's rather harmful because you get people that are like so desperate for like some kind of pain to stop or whatever, or to be
Mhm.
cured of cancer, that they'll try literally anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and I think I think a lot of these gained popularity out of a sort of necessity. I mean, do you remember like the psychic surgeons?
Oh, psychic surgeons.
Yeah, they were
I
they were
vaguely
huge.
remember something.
They were huge back in, like, the '80s and into the early '90s, a little bit in the '70s as well, but they were these people who they'd be in, like, developing countries, and it started infecting into the first world a little bit, where they were basically doing sleight of hand. This person would be like, "I have a tumor, and it's, like, on my pancreas," or whatever, and so they would, like, set you down in this medical bed, and he'd wash his hands, and then he'd, like, push and push and push and push, and like you didn't notice that he actually pocketed while he's doing this like a piece of like sheep intestine, and he like with sleight of hand would pull this out of your body psychically. It was huge. It was huge. Andy Kaufman, famously went to try and save his own life. He went to a faith healer, a psychic surgeon, and it was obviously bullshit, but that got blown way out, like it got exposed in a huge way in the 80s and into the 90s on certain things like 60 minutes, et cetera, et cetera. So now those more extreme forms of emergency treatments for life-threatening ailments, like, you can't do that. So instead, those people who are desperate are finding things like reflexology and finding things like Jilly Juice or whatever. It's all out of desperation, and it's sad. It's super sad. It's fucking terrible.
Yeah. Well, this kind of makes me think of another aspect of this, and that's the faith aspect. You kind of touched on that a little bit. Talk about how some things they feel like it's a spiritual thing, and that it's
Yeah.
deeply rooted in faith. And I find that like not everybody in like the pseudoscience like crowd adheres to the whole faith portion, but I find that more often than not is the case. Like it's either rooted in their religion or in some other kind of faith, where like there is no evidence. They recognize that there's no evidence, but you just got to have faith about it, and that is the evidence. And so I'm wondering, what do you think about that?
I mean, it's a pretty common a pretty common one. Like it basically it relies on breaking down to what degree them falling into this delusion requires a strict adherent of belief, or disbelief in otherwise accepted stuff. When I look at these things as objectively as I can, because I get emotionally compromised doing this work sometimes, but um if when I look at the mechanisms of how these groups operate, or what they demand of the people who are in it, or how the leaders of them behave, the parallels between that and faith are stark and very common. Um, I think the ones that Oddly enough, I think the ones that are more specifically centered around a faith-based system and not really like a science or conspiracy-based system, I would say that those usually are a lot less predatory in a weird way. Now, I don't wanna give them, like, any credit or anything because they're still doing terrible, stupid things, but there at least seems to be a sort of, for the most part, genuine desire for selflessness, or at least not preying on someone, you know. The predatory nature of it happens just because of the system of it, not really because of the people and their actions. Um, so I think that's actually it's kind of an important distinction to make, especially when you get into it, because if you can identify what the source of their belief is, if it is faith, or if it is an anti-science, or it is a conspiracy, then you can at least adjust your tactics accordingly, depending on what you want to do. If you just want to shit all over it, then you just shit all over it. But you know, if you want to try and pull people out of it, I'd say it's harder to pull somebody out if they have faith, but they're probably a lot less dangerous, kind of, depending. There are those people who, like, won't get their cancer kids treatment because of God, so shit.
Yeah,
I don't know. But you get what I mean, like, there's a
yeah.
vibe. There's a vibe there that is present in some and not present in others,
Well,
and
I
s
mean, do you think that's because of the faith aspect of it, or do you think it's more the personality of the person that is employing, the faith to believe in whatever pseudoscience?
I think okay, and that's an interesting question. I think that in a lot of ways, people who are very faithful and they believe in at least something akin to like a mainstream faith-based system like Christianity, even like for the majority of like modern moderate Islam, um, Chinese Hinduism, et cetera, et cetera. For the most part, the bulk of the people who follow these things are not inherently bad people. And I do believe that. I believe in like the inherent goodness of people. It always comes down to what people decide to do with the system that they have and with people under their sway and control. So when you have people who are engaged in something that is inherently abrasive or antagonistic, like we're fighting the Illuminati, we're fighting our own government, or we're fighting against, the shills in the science community. I think that abrasiveness and that combative nature plays a key component of their fundamental belief system, whereas religion doesn't necessarily have to. It's usually the perpetrators of that are the people who are who are talking for the others. The basic adherents are usually just people who just want comfort or want to be told what to believe because it gives them comfort, you know. And
Yeah.
that's why I think these two things are so intertwined, you know.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I know that a lot of what we've been talking about here tonight applied to a lot of like religious stuff in general, like faith healers. They indeed are both predatory and use faith as like a weapon against their congregants. But like that I would say that that's pretty relegated to like the actual faith healers and not the adherents of it.
Right.
So I think that there is a pretty big, thing that you got to distinguish when you're dealing with those kind of people.
Well, you know what's interesting about this too is like it also comes down into when you start analyzing people who are into it and the tactics that they're falling for and how this all plays out. Um you have to get into the understanding of why people will embrace it, why people will jump into it. It's the same thing with like if you're in a religion, you decide that you're going to tithe to your church, you're going to pay money into your church. What do you get out of that? You don't have to. You could participate or whatever, but you do so because you're an adult and you have your own fucking money and you can choose if you want to do it or not. And it's the same thing with like, and somebody asked in the chat about Reiki, reflexology, chiropractic adjustments, like even like the spooky shit, that's dangerous. You're an adult. You got your own fucking money. Do whatever you want. Free country, fucking whatever. It's fine. I would like everybody to be completely intellectually and scientifically informed before they decide to waste their money. I would rather that, but it's their choice to do so. The problem that really comes down to, and it's a reason why this is such a big deal, it's a reason why we talk about this stuff, it's a reason why we address this, is because there are people out there who can't make an informed decision about it, who can't choose to be blissfully unaware and just not give a fuck. There are people who are dying. There are people who are desperate. There are people who are mentally ill. There are people who are children who are being told what to do by their dumbass parents. And it falls in line with the same old thing. It's all a weird matter of indoctrination, and it's
Frustrating.
it is frustrating, dude. This work, I believe in it and I love it. I love what I do. But like it gets to you after a while. Like I did a video and it was about a very religious fundamental Christian science, or it's a specific cult of Christianity, and they're huge in Oregon too. And they let their kid fucking starve, suffer, and fucking die, you know? And like I have to like learn about this, and I gotta like look at all the old videos and shit of like, this kid withering away, and then I have to make a video about it, and I'm like, fuck. Why couldn't you just parents do that to yourself and leave your fucking kid alone and get him the help that he needs? That'd be nice. You could
Yeah,
go
it would be.
get the kid help. You two can go fucking off yourselves as much as you want. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you.
No, yeah, I agree. There was one question, or well, there's been a couple questions, but somebody wanted to know if you were going to make a mini series on David Avocado Wolf.
Ooh. Maybe. I mean, my workload is huge. And every week it just gets bigger. So I would like to do kind of a series on David Avocado Wolf, but for the time being, if I find something really hilarious about him, then I'll just throw it into the roundup once a month. For the most part, that's pretty much what I'm going to do with him for the time being. I got
Okay.
some bigger nuts to crack.
Okay. Another one of my moderators, actually, Reese, he asked what we thought about cognitive behavioral therapy. And I'm not I don't exactly know what that is. I think that I can kind of work it out, but I don't know. Do you know what that is?
I'm gonna have to refresh myself again. I ended up looking into cognitive behavioral therapy not that long ago. Yeah, short-term, goal-oriented psychotherapy treatment takes a hands-on practical approach. Um, basically, what the idea behind it, now that I remember, the idea behind it is to basically face the things that are really fucking you up, facing your fears, confronting the problems that you have. Because in psychology, there are so many different schools of thought on how the brain actually works, and I hesitate to say too much about psychology because I have my problems with it. Um, not because I think that I'm better than psychology or whatever, but because I'm an empiricist and I like data, and there is data to be gathered in psychology. And there are huge efforts in studying, trying to figure out how our mind works and the best way to deal with these things. But it's not you can test results and you can test methods, but you can't like physically test unless you're like measuring out the amount of neurotransmitter for this. But that doesn't actually tell you anything. It doesn't actually translate into understanding how the mind thinks or how it will react or how it will work, how it interfaces with our engrams. So um as far as whether or not I don't I there are people who stand by, well-known psychologists who stand by cognitive behavioral therapy. There's some who shit all over it. I mean, my suggestion would be if you're involved in any kind of mental help, or you're getting any kind of mental help from a psychologist or a psychiatrist, make sure it's somebody that seems to get you, and for in some manner you feel like you are getting a benefit out of the methods that they're using, then you're probably good to go. Because the thing that's going to heal you more than even them is your brain. And if they are aiding you in getting better, then they're doing their job. And that's really the sum and total of it. But other than that, I honestly don't know enough. I couldn't be like, well, so.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done anything like with that. Uh, but I will say that in my own personal life, like I guess tackling things head on or facing my fears or whatnot, that's generally been my attitude to like getting over like doing certain things. Is
Mhm.
I guess it's more of the ripping the band-aid off kind of
Sure.
mentality. I never saw like an actual therapist for it or anything like that, but I just I just always kind of kept that whole rip the band-aid off sort of idea in mind, and that's kind of how I handled things. And I mean, I think that I'm better for it, but again, mine's not like quantifiable evidence. Mine is just anecdotal evidence, and that's not any kind of evidence at all.
I'd say that's a lot of psychology and psychiatry is like the results that you get, or what people get personally for themselves, rather than like built upon very specific physical data empiricism. Terrence Clark in the chat, I think, summed it up quite well. Way better than I did, actually. So well done, buddy. A qualified therapist sees cognitive behavioral therapy as one tool in their toolkit. It's not the answer, and any good professional will know that. That sounds about right. From how I understand, even any psychology or psychiatry is, these are tools. These are tools to try and help somebody, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, you try something else. So yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I noticed somebody else was asking if you were going to do anything on David Icke or Ike,
Yeah.
whatever.
I still don't know if it's Ick or Ike. I can never I still haven't figured that out yet. Um, man, I want to. He's wonderful, the reptilian agenda, like that's a good one. That's a really good one. If I ever get a little bit of extra time, I think it would be interesting to do like an anthropological study into the belief of reptilians, where it originated and where it has gone from there. Let's trace all the splinter groups, this migration, if you will, of the belief in the reptilians. Like that would be fun. That would be great.
Yeah.
Um,
I actually have a video on my channel where I look into the Donald Trump reptilian claims, where they say that Donald Trump is a reptile.
nice.
Yeah, it was pretty trippy because I'm just sitting there like, oh shit, look at his eyes, guys, look at his eyes. Oh fuck, look, there it is.
There's some of those videos are great. I mean, usually they're like video compression errors or something that like or something that just kind of made it look like they have like two sets of eyelids sometimes. Those are
Yeah.
great. Those are wonderful. There was the famous Justin Bieber one. Did you ever see that one?
It's kind of, it vaguely rings a bell. I don't know.
Oh man, I'm gonna find that one. It was wonderful. Justin Bieber Reptilian. It's good stuff.
Yeah, let's see. Sleek the Geek says, "Hit me up. I'll help with research," and I'll do that, Sleek.
Hell yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Here, let me see if I can pull this up in a way that I can actually show you. Let's see. So if I pull this over here, so watch his eyes real carefully, right? So do, and we're zooming in, and he's gonna blink for a minute. Unless this guy has this paused. I didn't actually like preview this. Where is it? Oh yeah, here. What? Where was
Oh,
it?
there it
Did he just?
was. I think I saw it.
Yeah. His eyes like kind of blink, and if you look at it in just the right light, it almost looks like he had like two sets of pupils. Is this guy gonna? Yeah, here it comes. Where is it? This dude is cock teasing me. Yeah, see how crazy? Yeah, it's a video compression error. How his eyes look alien, and then they blink, and then they change color into like black and stuff. It's
Yeah.
great. I love that
I,
kind of stuff.
yeah, I like how they in that one particularly because it kind of looks like they just have their cell phone and they're just they're putting it closer to the screen and they're recording it that way, and it's like, see, this is 4K HD. This is beyond. This is actually 12K, guys. Okay, this is 12K video.
That's right. Well, okay, so, if his phone is a 4K and, that was originally recorded in 4K, him filming his phone close up onto a screen of a 4K video, 4 times 4, that's 16K.
Oh shit. That is the
Mhm.
clearest motherfucker out there, I'm telling you.
Yep. Just saying.
So I'm wondering, if you can, who is your favorite like pseudoscience type person on YouTube?
Offender, like they make pseudoscience?
Yeah, yes, that like they are part of the pseudoscience
Jillian,
crowd.
100% Jillian Epperly. She's my business wife at this point. Um, it'd have to be her. There are quite a few people, and some of which I haven't even gotten around to making the videos of yet, that are staggeringly funny. And they're great sources of entertainment. Um, Sunfruit Dan is also another really good one. Hemlock Moonwolf did a video on him. He's all about drinking urine, drinking turpentine, enema bags of urine, enema bags of turpentine, that kind of stuff. Good wholesome stuff. But what was cool is that video got made, and he actually commented on it, and he was like, "That video made me laugh so hard." I was like, "Hey, thanks for having a good a good sense of humor about the whole thing. By the way, stop telling people to drink turpentine, you idiot." It's fine if you want to be in your weird wee wee cult. It's fine. I don't care about that. But like, stop drinking turpentine. You're gonna get somebody
Well,
killed.
dude, I cannot take the whole urine therapy thing. I really can't. I had a debate with this guy called allegedly Dave, I think it was.
Mm.
Um, and it was, I mean, he looked so jaundiced, like he was just yellow in general. I don't
It's
know
all
if
the
it was
pee.
from, huh? Yeah, and no, in that thing, he said that he actually peed on a friend's leg and cured gangrene.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That's amazing. They should keep his piss on retainer for the local hospitals. You know what I'm
I
saying?
know, right? It's like, have you tried throwing piss on him yet?
Yeah.
Get Dan's or Dave's magical piss, and it'll definitely cure that whatever the fuck you got going on here.
I wish I had magical pee. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I for some reason I guess I've got a reputation now that people send me all the things I have to do with pee and poop. It happens a lot. I'm not very happy about it, but it's a job. But I just recently remembered this video that I made when I had nasty, nasty allergies earlier this year of a guy named Brother Sage. And he's this old, jaundiced looking guy. And he is a wee wee enthusiast. He talks about taking a neti pot and filling it full of your piss, and putting it in your ears and in your nose.
Oh,
Um, Enema bagging your pee. Um, he even the best line of that video of his, which he took it down. I'm actually really sad about that, but he did take it down. I think I still have my copy somewhere on my computer. But he was like, "Now make sure if you're gonna be putting some pee up your butt, you might want to heat it up in the microwave. Otherwise, you might shock your ass." I'm like, "Yes, yes, shock the ass."
well, I'm kind of like, how do you do that exactly? Like, do you have to like do a handstand and shove whatever tube up your ass and then pour the pee in it, or you think that's
Oh,
like a 2-person
oh,
procedure?
there's a whole science. They use physics. The whole thing with enema bags is making sure that you hold it up high enough so that gravity will pull it down and cycle it up inside you. Like there's a whole science to doing a gravity enema. Um, and yeah, you could do it standing, but if you like, I God, dude, I watched so many videos of Sunfruit Dan talking about how to do a piss enema. Uh, that in certain instances he was like giving people tips on how to hold the pee in because you don't want it to leak out. You got to keep the pee in there for a while. Let it do its magic, and then you can piss out your butt.
what
Pee. Never mind.
what kind of magic happens up with piss up your ass? I mean, like, could you cure like pancreatic cancer or something with pee up your ass? I mean, the obvious answer is no, but I don't know what
Right.
these people think.
Well, a lot of them are under the impression, and it's not just there's some stuff gets even grosser than that. But their belief is that when we excrete waste, because our diets are so bad, and even if our diets are good, we are losing nutrients with our waste. Like we're not absorbing 100% of it. So if we put it back in, we'll get more of those nutrients out. Not really. Um, I mean, like they have a certain point because absorption rates into our bloodstream, especially through eating, is not the most efficient. It isn't. It just isn't. The human stomach is really not that efficient of a machine of extracting nutrients compared to other types of mammals. But at the same time, we have such easy access to nutrients and nutrition in general that the notion that we should just re-ingest or reintroduce our own waste to get more nutrients is hilariously stupid. So some of them do ascribe a certain mystical nature to it and believe that um, that reintroduction of urine into our body or on our body uh, will provide healing benefits. Yeah,
Well, now
yeah.
this is going to be really gross, but you don't think that they eat their poop, do you?
Some do.
Oh God, don't tell me that, Jeff.
Oh, some do. You want to know the real fucked up one that I learned about not that long ago?
Yeah, well, of course I do, but go ahead.
I want to make sure I pronounce it right. I actually have it open on a yeah. I have it open on a tab right here because I've been looking into it a little bit. Do you know what meconium is?
Oh God, I don't know. I haven't heard that word before.
Okay, so when babies are in the womb and they're getting close to coming out of the womb, because obviously babies, their gastrointestinal system works a lot differently because they're obviously not eating anything; they're getting everything they need through the umbilical cord. But they do have a very dense bit of material inside their bodies, inside their gastrointestinal tract. And so their first poops out of the womb, usually for the first 2 or 3 days, is called meconium, and it is a black tarry substance. And it has been shown that there is a massive amount of specific chemical compounds inside of meconium. This translates to the crazy pseudoscience mind that I should eat that.
No. Okay, I've got an 8-year-old kid, and I've seen that firsthand. No, like like when my son pooped on the blanket, I was like, no, this just has to be thrown away. It is completely ruined now.
Yeah, yeah, yep. This is real shit. That people do that people do. Thankfully, the more extreme ones like this are usually a lot less pervasive. I would say there are vastly more people drinking their own pee than there are people who like squirt pee up their butts or eat baby shit or any of that kind of stuff. uh there's a whole generation of like hippy dippy people who have been brainwashed into thinking that the Ayurvedics drink their pee, so I should drink my pee because that's just gonna do something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, somebody pointed out
A
in the
chiropractor told me to. Sorry.
chat. Somebody pointed out in the chat that fecal transfusions are a real medical thing, and that's when like you have like severe ulcers because you don't have the necessary bacteria that's cultivated in your stomach. They will transfer like healthy bacteria through that, but it's
Yep.
only in very specific situations, and it's only recently, like, I think, become a thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's actually I've looked into it a little bit because I was like, that can't be real. What? A poop transplant? No. But I looked at it, yeah, there's a few different issues that can be combated with a fecal transplant. But it's not like you're taking somebody's shit and you're eating it. Like there's
no,
a very specific way of them extracting and then implanting, and it's specifically to get it into your intestines. It's not like up your butt.
right.
Like it's
Right. Yeah. It's not you in the bathroom with a bag and a hose up your ass.
that's right. That's right. Fuck. But yeah, that stuff's really interesting. And it's a brand new science. Like everything about our gastrointestinal system these days is changing through
Yeah.
innovation and new understandings and things like that. And it's wonderful. But I'm gonna call it here. We are not going to get anybody standing for piss enemas anytime soon. I don't think that's going to be the next revolution in medicine.
No, I sincerely doubt that too.
You know what? You know what I always thought was weird too is like, and I think maybe I made this comment. I don't know, but like, you got these guys and they're like, yeah, well, you just gotta you pee into an enema bag and then you squirt the pee up your butt and that sort of thing. I'm like, why don't you just like have somebody put their dick in your butt and piss in there? Like, it's a lot less complicated. And I mean, like, but the thing is that, you could say, like, well, what if they're not gay? Well, I mean, hang on. How Looney Tunes do you have to be to pee in a bag and then squirt it up your asshole? If you're that Looney Tunes, you could be like, well, this isn't gay. I'm just having my buddy help me with healing.
Right.
And it's probably going to be a lot more fun. And you might learn something about yourself in the process. You don't know.
How would you approach your friend like that? Hey, listen, bud, I'm just gonna come out with it. I need you to pee up my butt, okay? Just shove it in there deep and then just unload on me, okay?
Let's just cut this shit right here with your pee laser. I mean, no. Let's just get down to yellow tax. I need you to pee in my ass. I've been having trouble with digestion lately, and I think it would help if you would place your penis inside of me and pee.
Yeah, that's got to be the true mark of a best friend right there. Anybody that'd be like, I will help you.
That is a bro. Bros will pee in your butt when you need them to.
That is going to be the out of context tweet for the night.
Excellent.
So is there anything else that you wanted to cover or anything like that that you maybe had in mind before we go?
I've been thinking about it and kind of going back on like some of my catalog and trying to think about, you know, the tactics that some of these people use as pseudoscience. And I mean, there's so many. There's so many. I guess maybe the only other one that I would say is very pervasive and is obviously extremely effective would be persecution. Persecution.
Persecution. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, for instance, you know, some people got mad at me for saying this, but like it is actually very accurate. Andrew Wakefield is the father of the modern anti-vax movement. He's not the father of the anti-vax movement. That happened way before him, but the modern anti-vax movement really gained steam because of Andrew Wakefield. This is a guy who it was proven that he falsified data in his study. His study was also done coincidentally at the time that in this study is casting shade on an established vaccine. While he's doing this, he has a copy, not a copyright, a patent on a competing vaccine that he's trying to develop. All these different things, like, and he inappropriately was giving children colonoscopies when he wasn't supposed to be, and there was no medical reason for it. So he's putting cameras up kids' asses. Some of these kids actually ended up getting wounded in the process of this too. He paid kids at one of his son's birthday parties for blood samples to be used in his research. This dude is a fucking scumbag. A fucking scumbag. A piece of shit. But people think he's a fucking superhero. Why? Because he perfectly plays a medium machine, and he has a medium machine. A lot of money put into this fucking thing. And all of it is to weave a narrative of persecution. And that's how the whole thing works. With the anti-vax movement, that's how Vaxxed works, and their whole like autism media team, like all of this shit is all built upon a sense of persecution, of being a victim of the system, you know, and it's potent. I think half our politics in America work that way too, but you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting you bring up the whole persecution thing in anti-vaxxers, because did you see that video of I believe I think it was like a school board or something like that meeting where the parents erupted because they voted to, you know, make vaccines mandatory?
Yeah. It's not too uncommon either. The current trend when it comes to schools in America is that they have the ability to make a rule that your children have to be vaccinated or have there was two exemptions that you could do. One exemption was a medical exemption, like my kid can't get vaccinated, and because it has like this, you know, problem with their immune system or whatever, maybe a genetic marker that shows that it might harm them, et cetera, et cetera. So you can get that, and like your kid gets to go to public school, you know, tax funded public school. The other one was religious exemption. And when the anti-vaxxers found out about that, they started claiming that it was all a religious exemption. That's why this is supposed to be fine. So let me send my disease-ridden fucking children into public school with immunocompromised children. It'll be fine. And they started doing that. And so in response, a lot of the school districts were like, well, we're not gonna honor religious exemptions anymore because people are abusing it. So either you have a medical reason why they're not going to get vaccinated, or your kid doesn't get to go to public school. You have to homeschool them or send them to a private school. And people fucking erupted, and they're like, this is persecution. No, it's not. It's not persecution at all. Not even remotely. What it is societally conscious legislative inaction of a policy. Like, you know, what is more important? This is the question that like these anti-vaxxers ignore all the time. What is more important, your ability to hold on to your anti-science beliefs or the safety of a kid who literally cannot be fucking vaccinated because he is fragile or frail, or there's something medically going on that he can't get it. Which is more important? Well, they don't like to answer that fucking question. So they paint it as they are being persecuted, and it's hideous, and it's obnoxious.
Yeah, flat earthers, they do that too. Any kind of pushback that they receive at all usually is painted as like persecution, because just like with a lot of the Christian fundamentalists, they will claim persecution when you don't teach the controversy of origin of life, and because there's no controversy there. But now I'm wondering, do you think that the whole religious exemption idea should be done away with completely, or do you think that there's still valid reasons to allow that?
That's a toughie. I want to. Okay, this is where I get into a little bit of an internal conflict because, um, I believe in America, and I believe in the spirit of America. I believe in freedom, and I believe in people being able to worship or not worship however they want, and I want to be able to respect that whether I agree with it or not. But at the same time, the pragmatist in me has to gauge that versus other factors. If I really were to try and align myself as far as like science and politics and policy and medicine, my first and foremost consideration is always going to be the species. I think that we need to make sure our species continues, and part and parcel is that I cannot abide by people willingly contributing to an epidemic, because the aside from the potential of catastrophic climate change and a literally a celestial force causing mass destruction and death on a global scale, the most dangerous potential to human beings is viruses. And that's true. That's absolutely, nothing has killed more people on this planet than disease. Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It is the number one and will always be the number one reigning champ of death on the planet is disease and viruses. Motherfucking nature wants to kill us. So, because of that, I these days land more along the lines of religious exemptions are silly and pointless. And it's not because I don't want people to be religious or be able to have the freedom to make the choices for their own bodies. It's that if you're going to make those choices, I think you should have to be able to hold to the responsibility that those choices come with. And some of those responsibilities is having to modify the way that you live. You should still be afforded all the same freedoms, but not necessarily all the same privileges. And I think that's the distinction I have to make. I'm not comfortable with it. I don't think it's a perfect answer. But it's the thing that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah, and I mean, I would agree with you most definitely. And it is kind of a fine line to toe there between freedom of religion and protecting people in general from other people's choices like that. We did have one last super chat, and that was from Jane Pusecker. She asked, "What do you think about the charcoal trend, where people swear it or smear it to whiten teeth and other things?"
That one's interesting. Um, Charcoal is actually a pretty fascinating substance, and it's a very misunderstood substance too. Like, for instance, trying to remember the actual mechanism by it, but charcoal. There's charcoal, and there's also what's called activated charcoal. And when you hear that and you're into debunking pseudoscience, like the first time I heard of activated charcoal, I'm like, well, that sounds like a bunch of woo-woo bullshit, but it's not. It's not. It's actually like activated charcoal or activated carbon is kind of the process by which they make it, and it then has a different physiological effect in how it's absorbed. Um, Charcoal is has such a porous substance to it, so it's really good at soaking certain things up. People will tell you you can take charcoal pills and you can drink longer. That doesn't really work. Not really. Not really. They have used it for soaking up other things inside the stomach. You know, you can take those pills as a a stopgap measure, especially in like emergency rooms. As far as rubbing it on the teeth, it is porous. Um, it's like a microscopic brittle pad, you know. So I imagine it'd be good for scraping stuff off. But as far as like rubbing it on your teeth, you know, the whole thing with dentistry is you wanna get the teeth clean, but you don't wanna lose enamel. So, if like, I honestly don't know. If it's so porous and abrasive that it could scrape your enamel, it's probably bad for you. But if it can't scrape the enamel, then it's probably good for you. So I would suggest you look into that to see if it has, if there's any reports on utilizing that treatment for teeth, whether or not it can do harm to your enamel. That's the most important part, you know?
Yeah. I want to say that there's actually some toothpaste out there that claims to have charcoal like mixed into it. Um and it's supposed to like whiten your teeth and everything like
Really?
that.
Huh.
Yeah, I think let's see, charcoal toothpaste.
'Cause I'm
Yeah.
interested in that kinda stuff too. When I was younger and I engaged in quite a bit of recreational, drug use. Quite a lot, actually. That's why I look as weird as I do and as old as I do. Um, it actually wreaked damage on my grill quite a bit, and it's been a long process to, like, slowly start getting my smile back. Never lost any teeth, which is good. But, like, I had to learn a lot about tooth science, so I'm
Oh,
always
okay.
interested. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, apparently Walmart sells it for $5. The
Well,
activated charcoal fluoride whitening toothpaste.
I
Uh,
mean, Walmart sells homeopathic cough syrup too, so
yeah, yeah. No, I know, I know. That wasn't meant to be like a grand endorsement of, oh, this shit's real.
Yeah,
um, But anyways, I really appreciate having you here today,
sure, man.
Jeff. I'm fairly certain that I'm going to have you back on the channel at some point
Look forward to
because
it.
there's still a lot for us to uncover, you know, about you yourself in general. But I really appreciate you talking with me about pseudoscience tonight. I do some pseudoscience stuff on my channel, but it's mainly in the flat Earth kind of
Oh, yeah.
area of pseudoscience.
And
Um,
those are great, man. Your videos are damn entertaining, and it's fun stuff. It's good.
Yeah, well, I've heard that the Delano TV ones are probably some of the best, but I think that's just because he tells people to suck his balls all the time.
Yeah.
um, but no, yeah, and I love your videos. I think the last one that I watched, which I don't know if you've released one since then, but it's the new Nigerian scam
Oh,
with the
yeah.
doctors and stuff.
Yeah.
And I found that one very illuminating for that because it's like a whole new version of like the email scam, you know, wanting to transfer money, like you mentioned that in the video itself.
Yeah.
So,
That was
but yeah, huh?
yeah, that one actually just became that one happened because I was in the middle of such a big, like, ambitious project, and somebody randomly sent me this link, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna sit here and start Googling," and, like, 3 hours later, I'm like, "I have enough to make a video on this. This'll be fun. Let's do this." So, yeah, that one was great.
Yeah. Well, everybody that's watching right now, if you haven't subscribed to Jeff Holiday, I definitely suggest it. Like he was saying earlier, he's going through the Vaxxed documentary that was produced by anti-vaxxers, and he's debunking that. So stay tuned for his channel for that. Are there any other things that are going to be that are coming up, or that you have on the backlog for people to look out for?
You know, I just have like my usual stuff that I'm doing. Next video that's coming out is a new Hemlock Moonwolf. But it's more humor than it is like debunking. But the main ones are Vaxxed, and I do have a few exposés on some rather nefarious and shitty pseudoscience peddlers. And really it's all just kind of biding time until I find that next big whale and manage to scam my way into like a big stage again. You know.
I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah. I'm perched, man. I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Now, are
TV
these
was fun, dude. I
literally?
want to get back on TV. TV was
Yeah.
great.
Now, are these literally like shit pseudoscience, or you just mean
No,
bad?
no, no. I'm doing my best to try and stay away from the poop videos, man. I'm
Yeah, I
trying.
know, right?
I gotta make another Jilly Juice video sometime this next month, though. I promised that I was gonna do it, so I will. That's coming.
Okay. Well, everybody, like I said, go subscribe to Jeff if you haven't already, and I guess we'll talk to you heathens later.
Well, bye, everybody.